Chapter 13. Bargain. Alright, let's see how this all shakes out. Another... Okay, I know it's like technically not a new outfit, but now she's got like a scarf to go with the cool shirt she had. Look at these two. Fashion icons is what they are. That's the last one. Now what?
Now, unfortunately, we wait.
Are you going to be okay with this many traps? Some of them are designed to go off at the slightest hint of foreign psi energy.
You've set them up in a pattern I defined. I won't hit any of them. And I'll keep my psi confined to the nanosystem instead of releasing it in a proper sphere.
Will that work? Lance had his hands on my shoulders, giving me an almost amused smile.
Morgan, just trust me. I was in charge of planetary defenses for a long time. And it took a very advanced alien computer virus to break through them.
I'm sorry. I know you know what you're doing. But we're working within a lot of constraints this time. We can't ask Endgame for help if we don't want me to have to turn myself in. We can't ask the Nomos to be here right now because revealing a close connection to them would be a problem. We can't just dampen psionic energy in the entire area because it would leave us vulnerable if they arrive with, as you expect, reverse dampeners. I let out a slow breath. Contacting Endgame was still on the table. Lance said he already had everything ready to go, and they could be here in minutes if they needed to be. But it was the last resort.
It will be alright. Morgan, you have my word. Neither of us will be leaving this place today. Not with Nyx, not with anyone.
Well, I agree with that. Girl, you already got your plan in motion? Is that what you're doing, all sneaky sneak over there?
I suppose I'm fortunate you researched the concept of mind bombs on your own time, and were already prepared by the time I decided to teach you. I'm just worried you've overtaxed yourself the last few days with this setup. I've had to rely on your abilities far more than my own.
Yeah, well, that wasn't because of setting out the defense grid of practicing. Or practicing, I should say. That was because of my ensuring there was a backup plan in place in case we couldn't defend ourselves with all these constraints on us. Oh, she definitely did it. Because I did not want to contact Endgame. No, I was determined not to. I wasn't sure how long I'd be able to keep my recent activities from Lance, though. The plan he and Vireo came up with had a lot of working parts, which meant there was a lot of opportunity for it to go wrong, no matter how small a team Nyx sent to us. Lance had me setting up a grid of traps for the team, which we knew was on their way across the waste now, by teleportation, as he predicted, which also confirmed they had some sort of ability to scatter the effects of psi dampeners, since they'd have known the Nomos had them dotted through the waste. When they arrived, we would lure them into the traps to disable them. I just hoped the traps were effective. We'd have to rely on my abilities for them.
Remember, once the intruders are unconscious, I can use my ability to disrupt their nano-resonance without arousing suspicion. This will severely dampen their psi ability.
If they're nano-espers.
Fairies are still uncommon, so I think there's a high chance they will all be N-class.
Once the team was restrained, we would turn them over to the Nomos. They would transport them to a power station near the domes and contact Endgame, saying Nyx had attacked it. Okay. Hand it over to the guys that do have an Esper prison. They would claim an unknown Nomos group subdued the team with the help of psi dampeners and called for aid before disappearing. Endgame was unlikely to question the Nomos too far, and there were dampeners all over the waste anyway. And this sort of thing had happened before. This strategy would allow us to enlist Endgame's help without revealing ourselves. And, to Nyx, it would hopefully look like we just posed as Nomos and framed them without anyone else's help. We'll have to move fast as soon as they get here. I'll try to identify the strongest Espers from the start so we can deal with them first. I think that'll be the most effective way to ensure it works.
Will you be able to tell that much at a glance?
I think I'll be able to do it. But even if I was confident in my skills, the entire plan hinged on their activating the traps and Lance avoiding them. I wasn't sure how well an indirect approach like this would work with an experienced retrieval team. That's why I had done something daring and reckless. My backup plan.
I believe we will be successful, Morgan. Though I know it's fruitless to tell you not to be anxious.
But it wasn't just our plan I was worried about. Even though I'd never practiced mimicking him, I knew I could. We learned that early on. So I'd been confident if I studied the network he set up for me and Mum, I could recreate it and create a safe avenue to reach out. Oh, that's how you did it. I was wondering how you were going to pull that off. So you copied his ability to make a safe network for you to contact Jack. Damn. Despite knowing nothing about that sort of thing, it was easy to figure it out if you were looking into the net with Psy. Though I think if Lance hadn't been otherwise distracted, he'd still have noticed. That had been the only real reason I'd succeeded. But all I had to do was use it in my favor. Well, I felt bad about the fact that Lance wouldn't be expecting me to do something like this. But it was necessary. I mean, it's better than you walking out in the middle of the night and like, Endgame, come pick me up. So, I'll allow it. The difficult part was convincing them I was telling the truth. I knew if I got that far, they'd agree to help. Then it was stealing what little time I had to help them make it as close to us as possible without detection. 15 minutes when I was supposed to be showering meant time that had not been spent showering. And every other minute I could spare, I was exhausting myself for people we could rely on for sincere help. But now I had to find a way to tell Lance about it, and I wasn't sure how to even begin. There was no doubt in one way I was vastly overstepping, even violating boundaries. Something I'd never do under normal circumstances, which this was not. I couldn't agree the lingering feeling the situation wouldn't be as easily resolved as Lance was hoping. I rubbed my face again and checked the trap system again. Lance couldn't see them, but to me it looked like numerous small lumps of condensed energy floating in the ether. I tried to set the ones closest to where we would be waiting to go off in a chain reaction. I wasn't totally sure that would work. It was complex, and at the edges of what might be possible with Psy. Glancing back at Lance, I decided I needed to tell him about Jack and the others now, just so there weren't surprises later. Kudos to you for not just, like, having it spring out of nowhere. So, I wasn't sure how he would react, though.
If they don't walk straight into the grid, I think the key will be baiting them into attacking us. The knights and bishops will be the easiest, since the moment they reduce their cages, their spheres will make them vulnerable to those mind bombs.
Oh! Right, yes. Ugh, right. I needed to focus on the task at hand for now.
Rooks and infantry will be more difficult, since their spheres are usually smaller, and they don't rely as much on clairvoyance for movements and attacks. We just have to convince them you're a big enough threat, then lead them into the restraint traps one by one. As long as they touch one with their Psi, it'll activate. You need to keep a shield around yourself the entire time, no matter what.
Around us both.
Yes, of course. Around us both.
I'm worried this won't go well with just the two of us. So many things can go wrong. What if they... He cut me off, placing his fingers over my lips. I couldn't say where the calm confidence was coming from, but... Breathing in deeply, I tried to steady my nerves. He was right. It would be fine. This is why I contacted Jack, to have backup in the face of a situation we couldn't seek it elsewhere. No matter what Nyx brought to us, we'd only have to hold out a little. And even if Endgame detected some kind of major psychic energy out here, with Crimson's involvement, they would have to tread carefully, right? I planned for this. Lance, there's something I need to tell you before... Yep, too late. We did it. We dawdled so long, and now it's gonna have to be a surprise. I stiffened and hissed through my teeth as a chill ran through my body, tightening my throat and making every hair stand on end. The feeling was powerful, choking. Though Lance was frantically asking me what was happening, I couldn't answer. I gasped for air as the crushing feeling squeezed my chest, preventing me from forming words. It was a feeling of threat, menace. Something rapidly closing in on our location.
Morgan, answer me!
I grabbed his arm, backing towards the house until there was no space between us. They're coming.
How soon?
I think it's... now.
We knew it would be today. There's nothing we can do but wait. Take deep breaths.
I don't think deep breaths are going to help. Hello. Nice to meet you, Nyx. There was a flash, a popping sensation in my ears, a whirl of hot air, and they were just there. 6 of them stepping out of a strange ripple in the air. They spotted us right away.
There they are. Careful, Xavier. Remember, she's a queen rank. Yes, I remember that feral.
They were a short distance from us, grouped together next to the pool. Most were standing straight, eyeing us with a strange sort of wariness. One was bent over, wheezing as he rested his hands on his knees. That's the one that brought them here. Yep. The knight. Carrying 5 others over a long-range teleport had to have been hard for him. His sigh fluctuated pale blue, flickering as he tried to catch his breath. Lance had uncovered enough of their plan to know they had multiple knights piggybacking them across the waste to us. It couldn't be fun to be the beast of burden over long distances, but I couldn't bring myself to pity him. One of the team members moved closer, and I tensed. We didn't want them to discover the traps too soon and put the others on alert. Stay back! I stepped forward, keeping one arm in front of Lance, trying to project an image of strength, one that might make them hesitate to come closer yet. I hadn't been exposed to enough Psi to tell what each color of Psi represented, but I could guess. 2 team members had weak yellowish Psi. Maybe infantry? Based on the strength compared to the other 3, that seemed likely. The one called Xavier was a distinct burnt orange, and another had a similar shade. There was a vibrant red, feral, then the knight. If I had to guess based on what I knew of rarity, I would say 2 were infantry, 2 were rooks, then 1 bishop, and 1 knight.
If you come with us quietly, I can assure you neither of you will be hurt.
A frown crossed his face as his gaze fell on Lance.
You. Is that who I think it is?
Lance moved from behind me, giving me a sidelong look I thought was meant to be reassuring.
I apologize for my rudeness, but can we forgo the journey of realization? Under the circumstances, I doubt either of us has the stomach to watch it. Yes, I'm who you think I am, Xavier. It's been a long time.
Xavier gave us a cocky grin, tipping his head to the side. He made a motion with his hand, and the team fanned out but kept their distance. I tensed as one of the infantry came very close to one of the restraint traps.
To think you were alive all this time, Deimos Fianchetto. What a surprise. It looks like someone patched you up too. There are some kind people out in the wastes. I see you already screwed with our communications. Well, I did cut off your system access as soon as you arrived. I guess that should have been expected. Won't be a problem once we knock you out and take you back. We'll just kill him. Our orders are to bring the queen back. Fianchetto is obsolete. I wouldn't mind dragging his ass back to Nyx anyway. Give us some leverage against that bastard father of his.
I could sense it. They were about to get serious.
Tony, don't strain yourself. We don't want to spend a lot of time here waiting for you to recharge.
I expected the team to run in right then, but they still held back for some reason.
Morgan, whatever else happens, don't worry about defending me. Just follow through with our plan.
I jolted at the sound of his voice in my head, forgetting he'd set up a way for us to communicate with each other.
Can you tell their ranks?
Not sure. Tony is the knight, I know that much for sure.
Xavier is a rook. I remember that from our last encounter.
Then there's one other rook. Farrell, I think, is a bishop. The other 2 on the left are probably infantry, then.
The bishop and rook should be your priority. The knight won't want to use Psi if he can help it, since he wants to reserve strength for the return trip.
And the infantry?
They're not the bigger threat.
What are they waiting for?
They were hoping to take us by surprise, but we were waiting for them. And now they're disagreeing on how to proceed.
How do you know that?
I left their team comm channel up so I could listen in.
Nice. Sneaky. Though I have to wonder why they didn't question having internal comms still. Right?
The bishop wants you to make the first move. Then they'll attack at once, trying to use force to overwhelm you and keep you from fighting effectively.
This is so much like a chess match, it's insane.
They don't know what you're capable of, and they're cautious about provoking you until they do. Farrell is worried about giving you the chance to mimic their skills. Since they aren't sure what abilities you possess already, he's concerned about giving you a weapon you don't already have in your arsenal.
They're never going to get snared in our traps if they just stay back there. We'll have to lure them into acting.
Be careful.
I'll keep my distance. We may have to move fast. I want to get them searching for us if I can.
When you're ready.
I let out a soft breath and held my hands out, funneling a moderate amount of psi to a single point, before hurling it at the group.
Watch out!
The bishop reacted before I even fired the psi burst, pulling Xavier out of the way. Maybe that lackluster attack would encourage them to come towards us, especially since it struck the ground leaving only a small scorch mark. The bishop whirled back my way, holding his hands out towards us. Lance! I pulled him closer, flinging up a hasty shield. His psi burst wasn't any stronger than mine, smacking into the shield without doing much damage. I had only just learned to do psi bursts and wasn't interested in hurting anyone, and I doubted they wanted to damage their prize if they didn't have to, so we were just playing at this point. In response, I lowered the shield and swept my arm out, releasing another low damage attack Lance had taught me. This time I aimed at the second rook, who was standing right in front of the pool. It hit, and he went reeling back into the water with a splash.
Enough of this!
One of the infantry, the one right next to the grid of traps, stepped forward. No! Too soon! We needed the bishop to move first! But it was too late. The infantry gathered their psi up and stepped right into the restraint trap. It activated, interacting with their psi to send a painful jolt through their body. The guy let out a scream and hit the ground hard, chin slamming into the dirt.
They have psychic traps set up for us. They were expecting us. Trying to lure us into a minefield. Clever.
Xavier grabbed one of the other infantry by the back of the collar and shoved him towards us.
Disarm them. As many as you can.
What is he... The man didn't even question the order. I saw the sudden expansion of his psi through the entire area in front of us. Ah, the sacrificial piece.
No!
The expansion of the man's psi was near instantaneous. Almost every mind bomb I'd painstakingly set up triggered at once. He didn't even scream before he hit the ground. They sacrificed him like he was nothing, and I could only hope he survived. Yep, very much like chess. I think because the knight is like trying to hold back his psi a bit, teleportation's probably the best, because everyone's gonna have to like run to you more likely than them teleporting to you. Time to go!
What are you...
I swept my arms out in front of me, kicking up a massive amount of sand that spread outward in a whirling cloud. Then I grabbed Lance and teleported us to a nearby spot behind one of the buildings. I tried to not think about that infantry guy. Xavier just threw a teammate away like that. The mind bombs weren't all that powerful on their own, but dealing with the recoil of all of them at once? And now our plans were ruined. There were still other traps, but with half of them gone. Lance and I pressed ourselves against the back of the building. They won't see where we've gone. There are still a few mind bombs left. With luck, when they look for us, they'll trigger a couple of the remaining ones.
Good thinking.
A short scream sounded above the wind. One down. Nice. But it wasn't enough. I shut my eyes and opened up a communication link. Jack, we need you here now!
Magnus, it's time.
Oh, damn, you both... You both reached out to your... to two different groups, like, we need backup. Alright. Well done, both of you.
Wait,
what? Why would you contact them like that? We said it would be a last resort.
You contacted Crimson just now, but how?
There was an encrypted network involved.
We're going to have a discussion about you mimicking my techniques later, Morgan. Your capacity for learning is almost frightening. What did you...
That tingling sensation started at the base of my spine. Danger! I threw a shield around us right before something smashed into it hard. A psyburst.
They found us.
Not like there were many options. I grabbed him and moved us to another place, but the sand I'd been whipping around was starting to dissipate. Too many things at once. Teleporting, shield, dust storm. I couldn't maintain it all. I tried to keep us close to the building so we couldn't be surrounded. My mistake was keeping the shielded area too big. The sensation of danger came a second too late. Before I could react, the knight, burning bright blue beneath their sai, was inside the shielded area with us. Oh. I didn't know they could. There wasn't time to block the kick. Why is everyone in Nick so emo, by the way? They're just the emo group. His foot hit me in the gut, sending me flying back. The shield collapsed at the same moment. I staggered back, a silent gasp escaping as the air fled my body. The man came at me again with his fist this time, but Lance stepped between us. He caught the man's arm, barely flinching.
Please don't do that.
I thought I saw him throw a punch, something that stunned me only for a second, before I didn't have time to think about it again. I flung a shield around Lance, and his attacker, because they were too close to do anything else, as the bishop attacked again. I didn't have time to spare to think of what was happening to Lance, because two people descended on me at once. I scrambled to my feet and away from the first savage kick aimed at me, flinging a desperate psyburst at the attacker. I felt every attack that collided with the shield around Lance, while also trying to protect myself. Girl. Tossing up a weak shield helped me create a bit of distance. Xavier broke through it like it was nothing, though. I held up my hands, letting out a desperate cry. It only barely deflected his fist. I staggered to the ground, flinching at the kick I knew was coming. There was a flash! A familiar sound and presence. Is that my knight boy? Something dark flashed across a short distance and smashed into Xavier, dragging him to the ground. Yay! Caleb's here too! Woo! Let's go! Man, they move fast. For a moment, I was too stunned to react to Caleb and the others appearing out of nowhere. A woman I didn't recognize, but who was in an Endgame uniform, launched herself at one of the Nyx agents. Probably Vaughn. Well, now it's a proper Esper brawl, I suppose. Then my attention snapped back to the other person coming towards me. They didn't make it. There was a familiar whine of a sonic weapon. The shot struck him in the shoulder and he staggered to the side. I scrambled to standing, realizing another group had arrived. This is chaos. This is such chaos. I love it. Jack! I never thought I'd be glad to see him again.
You didn't tell me Endgame would be here.
Yeah, I didn't know.
You okay?
Hold that thought. And I jumped to where Lance was sort of casually holding off the attacker from before. I flung my hand out, sending the man flying away from us and into the dirt, before I grabbed Lance and got him out of there, keeping him away from Ari and the others as well. Endgame, Nyx, and Crimson all showing up together was the worst case scenario for me. But it was enough that Nyx seemed to think better of their actions. Their knight took one look around before rounding up most of his teammates and fleeing. They left behind their infantry and were gone in a flash. Poor infantry. Hi, everybody.
King's Guard. They're heading your way. 4 of them.
Nice. The King's Guard is even there to catch the stragglers. The response was over their communications. I couldn't hear it.
Queen's Guard, we're following. Ari, let's go.
The 3 of them grouped together, and for a split second, Caleb looked my way.
And you. We'll be back to deal with this soon.
Oh, Caleb, you and your promises of threats. And they were gone. Great. For a long moment, there was nothing but the sound of dying wind left in their wake. I was trying to keep my legs from giving out as I clung to Lance.
Morgan, are you hurt?
No. I mean, just a little bruised up. It's nothing serious. You?
Surprisingly unhurt. Though it has been a while since I've had a physical confrontation of that sort. Ahem.
Right. Crimson. You didn't bring your brother by any chance, did you? Because that'd be kind of great. So, about that thing I wanted to tell you. Ah, he's here! Oh, I can't believe the brothers reuniting is actually happening! Oh,
This is all I ever wanted.
Lance and I both looked at the three people standing a few meters away. Aside from Jack was also Kesa, though I knew he'd be there. Also, another man who I at first thought must be a knight, responsible for getting them here, but who I realized was a queen rank. It's what's his name? Good grief. How have I forgotten his name? We, sparred with him so much in Crimson's Fruit. Sassy McSasserpants, you know who I mean. Kesa was staring at Lance, his face registering disbelief, and I wasn't sure what else. He swallowed hard, mouth working as if he was trying to find the words to say. Oh, she told him. Damn, okay. Well, I mean, that would definitely get their attention to want to come help.
I didn't believe you.
He choked out the words, glancing my way. I know. I'm glad you came anyway, though. Though you were a bit later than I would have preferred. That guy. What? Jeez, I still can't remember his name. Veli? Was it Veli? I feel like it was Veli.
Blame this guy. Not our fault he's shit at long-distance teleportation.
Yep, alright, I got it. I don't know how she knows while she's been talking to them, so anyway, it's fine.
Perhaps on our way back, I'll drop you off in the ocean since you're so unimpressed with my abilities.
Kesa wasn't paying attention to them. He took a halting step towards Lance, and the rest of us stilled as the two brothers looked at one another, each one seeming to be at a loss for words. Guys, could you give them 5 minutes? Just, I don't know, go get an ice cream somewhere, and then come back, and then things will be fine. Just 5 minutes. Before either of them could speak, there was another flash, and Ari, Caleb, and the woman I didn't know. My heart leapt to my chest. I really hoped there wouldn't be fighting. Endgame was outnumbered. I hope that would mean something. Currently, but I mean the Kingsguard is out there somewhere too. Then again, given how monumentally bad I clearly was at this, maybe it didn't. How did you take care of Nyx that fast?
Kingsguard is taking those assholes down, along with a few of our border patrol groups who are rounding up their little teleportation brigade. Queensguard came back to clean up the mess here.
He emphasized the word queen in a way that irritated me, as if that was the position I was supposed to be holding or something. Bleh. I'm not going back with you.
Yeah, well, before we get into that.
He eyed Jack and the others, jaw working furiously before he looked my way.
How the hell did you end up all the way out here? And with this crew?
Oh, there was something about running for my life and teleporting in a panic. I'm sure you'd understand.
And why the hell is Crimson here? You conveniently forgot to mention that to my boss, King.
Oh, did Magnus fill you in? So they all knew who Lance was? Interesting. Very interesting.
I apologize. I'm afraid I wasn't aware of it.
I did try to tell you. We were interrupted.
I'm also a little curious how you managed it.
Well, I wish I told you before you contacted Endgame.
Depending when you planned this, it may have been difficult. I contacted them days ago, so it seems I had something I should have told you as well. Wait, so you asked for help from us, and he asked for help from them? And neither of you told the other?
It's complicated. I wanted help from someone I could trust to not drag me off against my will.
And I believed I could negotiate with your boss without involving Morgan, though I knew she wouldn't approve of me using myself as collateral.
You...
And Crimson was your pick there, Leone.
Yeah, well, between you and them, they're the only ones that didn't try to kidnap me. I love that the kidnapping thing came back again.
Apprehending rogue Espers is part of our job, and what we did was for your own safety.
That turned out well, didn't it?
Would have if you didn't throw a damn building on our heads.
Yeah, you and the buildings, her and the kidnapping. Tomato, tomato. The other queen let out a loud bark of laughter. even trying to hide it. Veli, you're so chaotic. Is this where we all fight each other? Because, and I hope this isn't too presumptuous to say, we've got 2 queens, and 2 kings, and a rook. I think we may outclass a rook, a knight, and a bishop.
I'd love to prove you wrong on that, but you're in luck today. Your boyfriend and my boss made some kind of deal, so we're not here to haul you in.
A deal with himself as collateral. I didn't know what that meant, but Lance was right. I didn't like it.
Unless you changed your mind and want to go with them, Morgan.
Is there any value in doing that at this point? With the situation...
No, you are correct. I doubt your going with Endgame now will change much about what must happen next.
Then I'll obviously choose to stay. But just what kind of deal did you make?
One that didn't involve Crimson. Ari, Vaughn.
Oh, come on! Are you even serious right now?
Why did I know he was going to pull something like that? Caleb, you may have noticed we're outnumbered. Morgan and King will stay out of it if they don't want their deal with Magnus voided.
Frustrating as it was, I could understand Caleb's position. From his perspective, Kesa and the others were dangerous criminals. They were a part of Crimson, after all, and they now knew the location of King, the planetary AI. It would be difficult to let that slide. But the situation was also not that simple, though I didn't think Endgame particularly excelled at nuance. Then I saw the shift in Ari's Psi, a brightening and condensing of the energy. And now I had to take another risk with a technique I hadn't quite perfected, but that I'd been practicing on my own since I came up with the thought of it. Girl, what you up to? I wrapped my Psi into his, displacing his energy and forcing it into a new shape. What are you doing to my boy Ari, Morgan? Confusion flickered on his face when he realized something was wrong.
My Psi is being disrupted.
Caleb glared at the rest of us before a confused look of his own washed over his features.
A Psi dampener. I'm unaffected, though.
I stepped away from Lance and between Caleb and the others. None of you were called here because we wanted some desperate clash between factions. Lance and I would have been much happier if this could have been resolved with none of you at all. But we're all here now, for better or worse. That said, I want to make it clear I'm not going to let you take Kesa. Deal with Endgame or not. I'm sorry, Ari.
You're the one disrupting my Psi?
If I didn't, you'd already have him hundreds of kilometers from here. So yes, I've displaced your Psi with mine for the time being. Damn!
What the actual hell? Is that even possible?
I prefer not to demonstrate it on everyone while we talk out our problems. Please just back down. I'm not letting you arrest them. And you all have to realize that taking Kesa into custody is going to lead to much bigger problems for Endgame to deal with, right?
So when did you pull that kind of trick out of your hat, Leone?
I've had a little while to figure out ways to combat random kidnappings by annoying Espers.
Magnus might not have made a deal with your boyfriend if he knew you were capable of something like that. Magnus can always try to take it back if he wishes, but I doubt he will. On the contrary, I believe you'll be receiving the order to withdraw. I am receiving a message from the tower now.
Lance looked my way and nodded. He must have been talking to Magnus all this time. Magnus would have been like, damn, look at that girl go! I stayed close to Kesa, but withdrew my Psi from Ari so it could stabilize.
Are you kidding me? He's going to let this slide. It is not a jest. I can relay the message straight to... Forget it. I just got it too. Looks like you lot get off easy this time.
So did you.
Get him, Belly! Why does one of them always have to get the last word? Ari's Psi stabilized in a matter of seconds. He looked unperturbed as he moved closer to the others. It takes a lot to perturb Ari.
Neat trick. We'll be seeing you around.
I hope not. Okay, can we get back to the brother reunion, please? That we were so rudely interrupted with. Now that they were gone, I sagged in relief as Lance stepped up to my side.
I wasn't aware you had perfected that technique.
Believe me when I say I did not, and that was a massive bluff. I don't think I could have held on to it much longer, and I could only do it to one person. If the others attacked, I couldn't have prevented anything.
Still, a non-violent approach. I approve.
He leaned and kissed me.
Glad to see he's still as smooth as rumored to be.
Jack, I don't need you cock-blocking another thing, okay? Alright, I'm still not over what you did with Kesa. Just zip. Zip it. Zip that coat all the way up over your face and to the back, alright? Shush. Oh? Smooth. Really?
Jack, please.
There was a long moment of silence, as if everyone was waiting for someone else to show up and start throwing punches. The only sound was that of the wind. Lance was the first to speak.
The guard has subdued Nyx's team. Magnus has recalled them all to Core Solaris.
That's a relief. Though I hope at some point you're going to tell me about this deal you made.
I admit I'm curious about the one you made as well.
Wasn't a deal exactly. I just told your brother that you needed help.
Deimos.
I like to imagine Case has just been standing there the entire time, like, trying not to burst into tears. He's like, I gotta hold it together. Case spoke the moment I mentioned him. Lance stiffened, and my heart broke at how scared he looked. He turned to Kesa and responded in a shaky voice.
It's good to see you again, Kesa. I'm afraid I'm unsure what Morgan has told you about me. Morgan told me everything about what happened 10 years ago.
Lance shot me an almost fearful look. I knew it was overstepping to share that, but it had taken me one conversation with Kesa to be certain telling him the truth would be fine. Lance didn't want them to know, but at the time, they were the only ones I could think of to reach to for help. The only group I knew would have his best interests at heart.
I suppose I should explain.
Lance was cut off when Kesa grabbed him and pulled him into a tight hug. That's it. That's all you needed to do. No words, just hug it out. Perfect. Wonderful. Lance just stood for a moment as if he wasn't sure what to do before his body relaxed and his arms went around Kesa, holding him tightly. I knew it. I was pretty sure they were both crying. They're not crying, I'm crying, okay? And sure enough, when they separated a few moments later, both their faces were wet. It was a moment that made me happy to see. Why don't you two go for a walk? You can show him Lake Kesa while you're at it. Now that no one is attacking, I should probably disassemble the rest of the traps. And I'm sure you have a great deal to discuss. You can show Kesa his lake.
My lake? I think a walk is a good idea. We do have a lot to talk about. A lot to catch up on. Morgan, will you be alright?
We'll be fine. Go. Walk. Talk. Catch up. Kesa looked back at me, then briefly abandoned Lance and came to my side. He took me by the shoulders and pressed a brief kiss to each cheek. Kesa, please. Kesa, please. I can't.
Thank you, Miss Leone. Thank you.
It's Morgan. And thank you for coming to help us. For believing me enough to do that.
Of course I would.
These boys are so precious. Too precious for this world. Ugh. The two of them started away from us side by side, walking slowly in the direction of the lake Lance had named after his little brother. I could see his hands moving as they spoke, but their voices were too quiet for us to hear what they were saying. Yes, what can I do for you, Veli?
I don't mean to interrupt this touching moment, but my head is about to split in half.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize. Why don't you come inside? I don't know if there's much I can do to help, but there's space for you to rest at the very least. And there's tea, food...
Vodka?
No.
Figures.
He shot me a crooked grin as he passed me by.
Thanks, newbie queen. I guess you did okay with all this.
So, this is where you ended up after you stole my damn car.
Alright, you and me catching up. Sure, Jack, why not? A little while later, Jack and I were sitting outside by the pool while Velly rested inside. Kesa and Lance were still talking by the lake, walking on the shore, their figures silhouetted against the setting sun. Eventually, there were several other unpleasant stops along the way.
Yeah, we heard about that wreck.
Sorry about that. For stealing your car, then getting it blown up.
Don't be. Wasn't my car anyway.
She was right! I knew it! Ah, she got him. He laughed and stretched his legs out, looking up at the orange sky.
I can't believe you had the guts to contact Crimson for help like that. Can you imagine how shocked I was to hear from you out of nowhere?
I can imagine. But I didn't contact Crimson. I contacted Lance's brother.
Yeah, I guess it's not quite the same thing.
I wonder what happens now.
Depends on whatever that deal is Lance made with Endgame. Man, I can't believe he's still alive. Karis is going to flip his shit when he hears.
I wonder if they'll decide to tell him or not. Their father? Kesa didn't tell him before he came.
Hell no. If Karis knew Deimos was alive, he'd be here himself with a damn army. Then things would have gone to hell real fast.
He sounds... interesting.
Well, no need to worry about any of that for now.
Man, this was a weird day.
No kidding. What are we going to do about those two?
He nodded towards Kesa and Lance. Just leave them. I think they'll be a while.
I reckon so.
And that brought an end to that situation. At least for now. It wasn't until Virio and the others showed up at our place that I realized we'd completely forgotten about contacting them. I'm so sorry. They would have been so worried. There were a lot of frantic explanations and apologies and introductions. And reunions, because it was great to see Finch up and about again. Damn! Alright, let's go. That was what brought Lance and Kesa back from the lake. And the day ended like that. I still wasn't quite sure what the future was going to hold, but for the time being, it was good. Very good.